Ready Check Radio.
Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Relic Grind, Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV / Square Enix podcast. We're going to talk Final Fantasy XIV. We're going to talk Square Enix. It'll be a podcast. That about puts it all together for you. We're doing it live, of course, over here on twitch.tv / Ready Check Radio. If you're watching on the website later or on YouTube, maybe listening on Spotify, head on over to readycheckradio.com, RAIDEO, like an MMO raid, .com. Make sure you're following all the socials in the upper right. Bring your friends and come hang out for a live show so we can get your opinions in on the show, because these guys here always have opinions, and we know what theirs are most of the time. Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Targoth, how are you, sir?
Greetings, programs. I'm doing okay. A little confused. I checked out your OnlyFans, and what you do with that pineapple's a little bit disturbing.
Hey, you subbed. You knew what you were getting into. You have nobody to blame but yourself. Somebody watched Snowbound this week.
Was it this week or was it last week?
That was this week. It was. Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It was last week because Indy was on and she wasn't on this week because she had her job interview thing. So
I pay attention.
Yeah. Pay attention. Apparently better than I do. Also on the line, not an owner of an OnlyFans account, Mr. Adam Lane, aka Kronos. What's up, sir?
I don't even need to know what y'all are talking about, to be honest. Better off being in the dark on that.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, unless you have $17.99 a month and you want to have a really neat day. I mean, you could
just stop. You could just stop.
You could join Mike Burns' OnlyFans.
Needs one word for it.
Yeah, it's
$17.99. That's steep, man.
Hey, you get what you pay for on OnlyFans, friend.
All right.
Let's just say he puts those magic tricks to the test here. Okay.
I am 100% value on OnlyFans.
I'll just take your word for it.
I got to buy one, get one coupon. So, like, if you got a friend that's interested, you can snag on a free membership there. But you got to...
I'll pass.
Yeah, you got to use code Mike's Pineapple.
Mike's Pineapple.
To get that BOGO offer. My God, this show is just off the rails already. We haven't even started, and we're already on expensive tastes, chat says. Yeah, well. You give what you pay for, and I offer value. What do we got to talk about? All right, let's start with some Final Fantasy XIV news. Did you gentlemen see that today the super amazing, awesome, unbeatable, full of information, interactivity, great graphics, and just overall probably an 11 out of 10 website, the 5.5 special live site or special site for the next patch is live. Did you gentlemen see it?
I did.
All the adjectives I used absolutely apply.
Sure, we'll go with that.
It's got some words and images in there, or image.
I was gonna say, wait, images? What site did you see? Did they update it after? You have no,
it's one.
Yeah, it's just one.
Just the one.
Really, gang, we're not even showing you the site on here because we'll cover it when they actually do put the stuff on the site. It technically did go live today, reminding you that 5.5's release date is April 13th, and there is literally a text list of what's in the patch. That's it.
Yep. The art is beautiful.
Same thing, like main scenario quest, new alliance raid, new dungeon, like all the stuff we talked about when 5.5 was revealed in the live letter. We went through that whole list. They copy-pasted that frickin' list. That is there. That is there. New mounts, new minions. None of us are really emote guys. Like, we don't gather. Like, Kronos, you collect the mounts. I do the minions. Tark, you do a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but you're not cashed in on either column as the two of us. But none of us really does the emotes, huh?
No. I have them. I have I think I have all the ones that don't cost money just because, like, they kind of are in this, like, just like I have some minions. Like, I don't have there's like way more minions than emotes.
Yeah.
But a lot of the emotes tend to come from like places I'm already doing the mouse stuff for. And so I did like Eureka or like Bozja.
Astra in chat saying she had to go look at the site again because she thought she missed something. I thought I did too. I'm not gonna lie. Like I clicked on it and I was like, oh, they must be doing it differently. There's these little links at the top. I'll click on news and information and maybe like the tabs will show up. No, that just took me back to the freaking loadstone. Like, oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm surprised it's just like a list of, it's just like raw text. Just
Yeah.
a list.
Well,
there was more images in the live letter.
Yeah, and when you go to the 5.4 one, like it wasn't a lot of information, right? But it was those little panels. They would have like one or two key art pieces, and then they added more as the patch got closer, and maybe like 3 sentences about that piece of content. This is literally they copy pasted the list of features, put it on the site. So it's live.
Our show notes have more information than that.
Yeah, we have spent more time talking about what is on there than is actually on there. So
moving on.
But with that reminder, there's another reminder here, Tark. We are closing in on the beta for PS5 access. Kronos and I play on PC. I only do casual stuff on the consoles. You are primarily the console player here. Are you excited? Will you be in the beta? Can you wait? Are you going to be playing in 4K or are you going to go performance mode? What do you feel? What are you feeling?
I didn't think about the performance mode versus 4K. I do have everything I need for 4K, but I feel like I want to go performance mode. I am excited about it. The ability not to have to load my disc every single time if I want to play a different game. Amazing. Just amazing. The load times just from the backwards compatibility for PS4 to PS5 is an upgrade, but the fact that we're going to have our own client, load in like 5 seconds. That'd be amazing. Give it to me.
Yoshi P pretty excited about it too, Kronos. He told the official PlayStation magazine in the April issue that really as an MMO developer, the 2 big things that really appeal from this hardware is, first of all, the memory size. There's a huge increase in the memory size. There's also much faster loading speeds. I think there are also things that players can really imagine would make an impact on the gameplay difference. Experience. But then he went on to say that, very simply put, that he always felt like Final Fantasy XIV was needed to be, not just was, but needed to be a great console MMO, kind of hearkening back to the idea of Final Fantasy has always generally been a console game from the beginning. And so although MMOs might tend to be a little daunting for the inexperienced, let's say, to get into a more demanding genre of gaming as far as sucking up your time and your knowledge and your willingness to research and learn things, it's important to Yoshi P and the team that this be successful and easy to play on the consoles. That's why they put so much time into making sure that the PS5 can deliver exactly what they want to deliver, both on that ease of access and it just being generally a great console game.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've already succeeded on that, right? Like, just how playable the game is on a pad. Like,
Yeah.
I don't play on pad. I couldn't do it. Like, I look at, like, the cross hotbars and they make me want to throw up. But, like, the fact that, like, I have friends that are very, very good at the game that play on pad, no problem. So, like, it's obviously not, like, a peripheral thing. Like, they do a really good job of balancing the game around that and making sure that it's playable for the people on console. And like, the people on console can be just as good as the people on mouse keyboard. Like, it's not really, And honestly, now with the PS5, their game's probably gonna look nicer than mine on my computer.
Yeah.
At this point, so.
And again, I mean, you do have the option on the PS5, Tark, of going either in performance mode and cutting yourself back to, like a 1080 view, 30 frames per second, sacrificing a little of the visuals for the performance, or going hog wild 4K, super ultra textures and everything from the PlayStation 5, but maybe slacking a little bit on the performance in that case. I could probably see, like, if I had to guess, Tark, you would probably be when you're sitting around doing random dungeon queues, daily quests, stuff like that, crack that bad boy out there and make it 4K. When it's time to raid, put that bad boy in performance mode, right?
Read my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's raid night. Time to switch over to frames per second. Oh, we're done with raid. Back to 4K. Make it look really pretty.
Yeah, but that then leads to like every time you go in raid, you're like, this game looks like shit. this game looks horrible. I had to put it down in 1080. Oh God,
It looks fine as it is now.
God, the 1080. I think the only thing I care about, I mean, I will load it on my PlayStation 5. I own all the software so that I can play it on the PC or on the PS5 and all the or PS4 and all the expansions. So I'll move it to PS5. I will dabble in the I'll only play in 4K because I never do anything that isn't casual, on the console.
Sure.
Anything that I'm doing that I need serious, attention or whatever, like a raid is, I'm on PC. But so I'll probably always have it on 4K. But yeah, that's going to be, when you come back, the loading times are the biggest thing.
Oh God.
I mean, it's great that the 4K is there, but I think the loading time chronos is what's the best. Just like those of us that moved at some point Final Fantasy XIV from a hard disk to an SSD. I mean, that was just like, you're like, oh my God, this is so much better. This is so much better.
Yeah, mine's been on the SSD. Yeah, mine's been on the SSD forever. And I never played on console. So I'm like one of my friends that's in my raid group, he started on PS3. So I can only imagine how terrible that was.
Back in the day.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I've gone through that whole progression, okay? PS3, back in the day, loading into Mordona. Oh my God. Minute and a half loading time. Okay? PS4 came out, cut it down to like 45 seconds. Better, but still. Bleh.
Yeah.
And now that I'm on PS5, even still backwards compatible, I mean, you log into Yulmar, it takes about 5 to 10 seconds. I'm hoping this cuts it like down that in half.
Tell Discord to behave on your microphone. You're roboting a little bit here and there. Stupid Discord.
no.
Smack it in the face real quick. What else we got in Final Fantasy XIV? Oh, the Moogle Treasure Trove is back.
Yay!
Started this week. I mean, we knew it was coming, and we'd mentioned it on a previous show, but as a reminder, the Treasure Trove is back. Not a lot to say, but I mean, it's back. You got some new. Whoops, that is totally the wrong button. There we go. We got some new mounts and minions and earrings. You want your earrings? Look at that T-Rex mount. Look at that T-Rex mount.
I got it already.
Can't add a mount I don't have, so I don't really pay attention. And I don't really glamour. It's always like a accessory. I don't really glamour my accessories, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
Do you guys glamour at all? Like I could not. I don't glamour in 14. I don't transmog in WoW. Like I just don't care. I like wearing whatever the current set
everywhere
is.
you go.
Whatever the current set is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, what if it's like not your bis? Like, so what if like you're raiding and you have like a raid piece and a tombstone?
Well, then I swap them and then come back out and put the set on when I come back out. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into raiding and be like, tough. Do you have your BIS? Yeah, I do. Well, put it on. Nope, it doesn't match. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Well, I didn't know I didn't know if you still glamored to the full set, or if you just left it kind of looking like a hobo, or you just have like mismatched stuff.
Yeah, I mean, once you get there, I do look like a hobo when I'm picking up the pieces initially because I got like 2, right? But then when you have more than you don't have, and you're just subbing one piece here and there, you generally don't look too bad. I've never been a glamour guy.
Glamour is the true end game, Mike. Okay, you're just
all my Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2, man. That's Fashion Wars 2 is what that is. Talk to Jason Winter. That's all that happens at the end of that game.
14 is definitely Fashion Wars, 100%.
Oh, yeah, I literally
I do an ultimate fight for like 50 to 60 hours to get a weapon that I just glamour.
Ninja in chat says you only glamour the weapon. Sleepy Rain Dog just dropping gift subs all over the place. Here, I can't do the cheering during the show, Sleepy, but it is appreciated. So I'll fire the disco lights off behind me, and we'll give you the cheers after the show. But got to make sure I get that in there. Sleepy Rain passing out the subs. You could have gotten one if you were here live, but you're watching on YouTube or ReadyCheckRadio.com or Spotify, and we appreciate that. But come on over and hang out live every once in a while. Make sure you're following us on all the socials. Some FanFest details. So the art submission period is over. That's done. If you wanted to submit fan art, you're too late. But what you could do is the Glamored for Life event has now started. So if you want to get some pictures of you in cosplay, you have till April 16th to go ahead and get those in. Now, I do like one of the things they say here, like, because generally these turn into the huge cosplayers that have, you know, thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours and time invested in all this stuff. Here's their description of the theme, Kronos. I kind of love this. Showcase your appreciation for your favorite character, be it an NPC monster, your own warrior of light, or etc., by dressing up as them however you'd like. Whether you choose to wear an intricate outfit designed to completely mimic them, or simply create an outfit themed to showcase your love for a certain character, the choice is up to you. So it is not billed as a full-blown just costume contest. This is show some appreciation for your character. Like, I've sat and streamed and wore my white mage hoodie.
Yeah.
You know, you guys have seen me wear that. I can't wear it right now. It's hot as balls. That thing's 100% fleece. Sweat my you know what's off. And then what would I do with my OnlyFans page? I mean, that's a day out of commission. I gotta
get some peaches.
Yeah. God.
You said you were doing high-end content. You gotta make the sacrifice to charge $17.99 a month.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You know, art is painful sometimes. So I do appreciate that they call that out. Like, it doesn't have to be full-blown cosplay if you want to get your submissions. Either of you gonna submit for this? No.
No, that's not my thing.
I mean, Kronos, you're wearing that Eagles shirt. I'm pretty sure that was a tier gear at some point, wasn't it? Like,
I go get my Carson Wentz jersey. Yeah, you want to feel really outdated.
Well, you could pick a particular class if you wanted to do this. So I figured what we would do briefly here. We do have Endwalker coming soon. 5.5 in just a month here, and then Endwalker in just a few more months here. The beginning of an expansion can always be a little tricky with the classes, because normally that comes with a revamp, right? Or a exiling of some abilities in favor of some new abilities, condensing some abilities. Oh, and then, by the way, you usually have, some new classes being thrown into the mix. And of course, we already know that Sage is going to be one of them. And then we're going to get a melee DPS as the second. We just don't know what it is, but knowing its role is enough for this discussion. So I'm going to talk to you, gentlemen, about your thoughts on overall class balance, because as we go into expansions, we always see I've never played, I'm going to come play. What should I play? And we've talked before on previous episodes about what might be the best fit for newer players as far as getting rotations and stuff down quickly and being able to perform there. But now let's say a step further. The MMO experienced veteran coming into Final Fantasy XIV and wanting that balanced experience, not wanting to feel like they're lagging behind in DPS or in heals or things like that. What are your thoughts as we head into Endwalker, Kronos, on just the overall balance of the game and of the classes? And we should put a qualifier on this, right? We don't give a fuck about PvP. So
what?
None of us on this show.
I had all this written out.
None of us on this show care about the PvP portion at all. So if you want information on PvP balance, I'm sure somebody else will have it on better YouTube than us on YouTube there.
Maybe.
But from a PvE experience, and again, I know that kind of focuses the discussion more towards raiding, right? Because the single player content, you really don't have to worry about balance. Your personal duties, you don't have to really worry about balance. 4-man dungeons are a joke in this game right now as far as difficulty goes. But when you do start getting into the normal 8-person raids, the normal 24-person raids, and then on into Savage and Ultimate and Unreal and all that stuff, that's kind of where this discussion is going to mainly, I would imagine, land. What are your general thoughts on overall balance right now, Kronos, heading into 5.5?
Overall, I think they've done a great job, honestly. And they've done a great job for a while. And no job's really getting laughed out of raid or anything. There are obviously jobs that perform better and jobs that are technically better by small margins than other jobs. But for the most part, I think they have pretty strict goals on what they want jobs to do. and like inside their own role, and they do a good job of kind of balancing in that role. I mean, there are some exceptions that I'll probably kind of go into more
Yeah,
as we
we'll
get
get
more into like each
into
role.
we'll
But
divvy it up
yeah,
by role.
right,
Yeah.
right. But overall, I'd say they do a great job
Tark,
balancing
are
all
you
the
on the
jobs.
same page? At least on the overall look of balance?
Yeah, I think that content can be done by pretty much any combination. So they've struck that balance for the game itself. I feel pretty well. I'm on board with Chronos. There are a couple jobs here and there that could use some love, most notably in the physical ranged. But I feel overall it's they do a great job.
See, I'm one of those people, and I said this on the show when we talked about this before, that I don't feel an MMO's classes generally need to be balanced. Again, setting aside PvP in that game, because then, yes, you do have to make sure that there's a certain element of balance there. But when it comes to PvE, like I'm not somebody that minds if, hey, you know what? I play a black mage. This last set of Eden was horrible for me. It was just horrible. It doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the content, doesn't mean that I didn't like the fights or anything, but my DPS suffered in these last 4 because they were so movement intensive at certain points. And there were certain points that, yes, I could mitigate that a little bit by knowing the fight a little better, but there were sequences that were just not mitigatable, if that's even a word, right? You just kind of got to grin
Sure.
and bear it. So my DPS suffered a little bit, sure. That happens, but I'm okay with that. Like I don't feel like everybody has to be on par. But that said, I do feel like when you feel like a class is severely lacking, there's a problem. And that's why I want to take this by categories now. Because I feel like the one we're going to start with first has probably had the hardest time throughout the history of the game in getting this right. There has always been, in this first category, a preferred class at some point or another. It might have changed, right? Might have gone from one to another, might have gone back. But I think healers have probably had the roughest time with the balancing of classes. Hopefully Sage and the divvying between 2 different styles of healer now will help that. But you are both primarily healers, so I can't wait to get your take on this as somebody who just casually heals. Chronos, has it been the way I perceive it to be, where there has pretty much always been one better healer than the others at every single point? And will it get better?
No.
What can they do in Endwalker?
Yeah, I would say that you're pretty much right. But it's not so much to the point that like the other healers are just so bad that you can't play them, I guess. But there's all like right now it's definitely Astrologian. Astrologian like is king right now. It's crazy what they can do. They almost have too many tools, I think, to be able to just kind of carry the raid if you raid with like a very experienced one. Like I switched to this tier for the first time and it was overwhelming at first, but like once you get it down, you realize that you can just do most of the work and your other healer hardly has to do anything.
We should note that you primary white mage.
I was
Okay.
primary white mage the first 2 tiers of this cycle, and then the last tier I was primary astro. So I've done and I've played scholar before in previous tiers as well. So I've actually raided on every healer that exists currently in the game. For a while, like you alluded to, like Scholar was kind of king for a very long time. Like the original game up through like Heaven's
Yeah, and it
Word.
wasn't even Scholar. It was just the damn pet. It's just like
Yeah, I
the
mean, the
Scholar
pet just
themselves
did-
didn't even need to come in most cases.
Right.
Yeah.
And things that existed back then don't exist now, like accuracy. Like Scholar just like scoffed at that. They didn't care. Like their dot
Yeah.
didn't do damage, so never missed. And then your pet, yeah, like you said, your pet would carry a lot of the healing back then, and they've kind of nerfed and mitigated that. And Scholars suffered a bit for that, to be honest. The balance here, though, like currently right now, I think is okay. Other than the fact that maybe Astro is like just a bit too strong. I kind of like the identity that kind of each healer has, maybe with the exception of Scholar. I think Scholar has a bit of an issue right now that they kind of need a little bit of help. But I think when they divide the healers up, I think Scholar is going to get some love. I think White Mage is in a very good design place right now. They just need some things that maybe will like kind of help their kit a little bit. But I kind of like that they're just like this like damage healer. Like they just do a crap ton of damage, right? Astro like is the buff healer right now, so it's kind of going to be interesting to see where Sage fits in. But right now, I think Astro's buffs plus their healing kit is just a bit too strong, honestly.
Tark, have you mained the same healing class throughout this entire raid tier?
Yes, I've been a scholar since Heaven's Ward, so
yeah, a little more than
yeah.
just this raid tier.
a little bit more than that. I'm kind of right there with Kronos. Astro's pretty broken, pretty OP. Scholars, I feel, need love, and that's where I think going in an Endwalker and separating pure healer versus barrier healer is going to do them some much needed help, because they're going to be differentiated from the other two. So Square can balance the pure versus the barrier, and then the niche role between Sage and Scholar to get that right. So I'm looking forward to that. Of course, I'm going to be changing over to Sage. So
what do
sorry,
you need to see out of what do you need to see in Endwalker as far as providing a little more balance for the healers?
I don't know if it's just not enough damage on the Scholar's part, or if the shields just aren't strong enough. I can't really put my finger on where a Scholar is really lacking. Just
I
seem a
honestly
little
think
underwhelming.
yeah, I think they have several issues. Honestly, I think some are like just kind of some overall bugginess. Like pets are still a problem.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
for unresponsiveness of pets, like if you try to queue up 2 actions, sometimes I don't know like how aware y'all are of this, but if you try to queue up like 2 pet actions, you can get the same action twice.
Yeah,
I've had that
really
happen.
bad.
And
Feels
then
really bad.
I've made the mistake of queuing up an action and then doing Seraph. I'm like, oops, wrong order.
Yep.
Feels bad.
Yeah, sucks.
Cancel the action and then here's Seraph. I'm like, no.
So that still needs to be fixed, and that's not just a Scholar problem. I mean, obviously that's another class has a pet problem too.
Mhm.
I just really don't like the way Aether Flow is designed. I don't like.
Yeah,
I think the skills that they have are very cool, but when you sit a player down, right, especially like you were talking about like the top end raiders, and you trying to explain how this game works to them, right? Like damage is king in this game. That's just how it is in raids, right? It's
Yep.
like you want to do the most damage you can. Doesn't matter what your class is.
Yep.
Scholar, what you're asking them to do is they're like, hey, you have this button Aether Flow, and it gives you 3 stacks. And here's all these cool heal abilities, right? Like you have Soil and stuff that are really strong. They're very strong healing tools.
Yeah.
But then you have this button Energy Drain, and you're like, but if you don't use this button, you're losing damage. And that's what you're telling the player. And so like the fact that that kind of exists, it really deters high-end scholars to like not even use those healing abilities that are actually really cool and really well designed, I feel like, and that tier below will use them a lot more often. But once you get to like the high end, like scholars are just energy drain, energy drain, energy drain, dissipate, energy drain. You know, like they don't even care.
And I don't like when that stuff starts to happen, because then it starts to feel like you're sacrificing class identity for damage. Not just, hey, I'm going to use ability B over A, which, okay, there are some rotations where, given the situation, or as a black mage, I'm going to move, so I'm going to fire this now instead of what I would normally do if I was standing still in my rotation. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is when a healer basically says, you know what, it's not my primary function to heal, and so I'm not going to use these healing abilities right now. I'll make sure nobody dies. We won't let anybody die, but it's more important that I get more damage out. That's when I don't like certain features.
And that's what makes Astro so strong right now, because they don't lose anything by healing. Their off globals are so potent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't ever have to stop dealing damage to significantly heal the party.
Yeah.
Between like Earthly Star, you just have to calculate it, right? Kind of like how you have to plan around Black Mage, right? Like a Black Mage is really strong when they plan out. Same with like Astro with Earthly Star. If you plan around Star, like Star is absurdly broken skill, honestly, if you just plan around it. And like to your point, last thing I'll say before I'll let Tart go. I like the way White Mage is balanced, because like they get damage for healing. Like the way that Lilies work now is actually pretty cool, because like they're using their healing skills to get their big damage spell, which I think is cool. So,
Tark, you had a point there.
I concur. You nailed it.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Moving on, DPS. This one gets probably a little more divisive, depending on who you're talking to and what classes you main or anything. I'm primarily ranged magical, whether that be in Black Mage or Red Mage. I dabble in all of them, but those are my primary mains. And obviously, we don't have time, in the interest of time, to go through all the DPS classes. But again, the same type of topic. Tark, we'll start with you. Like, what's your overall feeling of the balance of DPS? Who's winning? Who's falling behind a little bit? What improvements do you want to see made as we head into Endwalker?
Overall, I think it's pretty decent. Samurai is just awesome. But my key point that needs a little bit of love is going to be in the physical range. I feel Dancer is in a good spot. They provide
Do
a
you
lot
really?
of utility. Yeah, I do. And
Huh.
they get to see big numbers, so it feels good. But Bard just does Bard. I feel bad for Bard. Like, their songs don't affect them. Their battle voice doesn't affect them personally. It's like, and everything's kind of weak on their end. So I think they need some love. And Machinists, for not having any utility, they're just pure DPS from physical range. They just don't provide the raw numbers to warrant bringing them, really.
Sadly, Bard's glory days were 2.0. Like, right when it launched.
They were busted. They were
Yeah,
busted.
they were so good. So good.
Right when it launched. Right when it launched. I'm interested that you think Dancer's up there, because I think Dancer is one that tends to actually be lower on DPS charts.
So that's personal, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so if you look at it, kind of how it gets calculated now, and that's the same is true about Astro, and that's kind of like that's a little bit of
Mhm.
smoke and mirrors, right? Because you look
Yeah.
at Astro and you're like, oh, that white mage is smoking them, right? But then you look at the DPS actually, and the DPS they're giving with their cards and their divination, and it's
Yep.
actually it ends up beating the white mage.
Yeah.
Same kind of goes for Dancer, where if you're in a party where everybody's about the same skill level, the higher the skill of the party, the more Dancer shines. So they're gonna always be the lowest, but once you like kind of throw that in there where they're hitting their technical steps, they're basically giving their samurai in most cases like a permanent buff, and
Mhm.
like it gets pretty nutty. And so it's a bit deceiving because you're looking at your personal DPS meter and they're low, but they're actually doing a lot more for the party from a numbers perspective than they look like they're doing if you dig deeper.
Kronos, you got the same type of feeling. Samurai a bit OP at the moment.
Samurai is very, very strong. Black Mage also strong. So I don't know if you're aware of this because I don't know much like look into like the deeper rotations and stuff. But Black Mage has a bit of an issue right now too. To be honest, like they're hitting very high numbers, but the way the gear works in this tier is kind of weird because their
Yeah, it
weapon
is.
doesn't have spell speed on it. So they're actually I don't know how aware you guys are of this, but high level Black Mages right now are not even using Fire 1 and Blizzard 4.
Nope.
Do you know how crazy that
Oh.
is?
Yeah, we skip them.
That's insane to me. Insane
Wow.
to me. So they need to fix that because like I think
Yeah.
when Black Mage plays the way it's designed, it's actually really cool and,
Yeah,
and a
I
very
agree.
interesting class, and I think one of the better designed classes in the game. But when you're doing that to it, because it's technically not doing as much damage, that feels a bit bad. I think. But that's like a different thing because they're still performing well. That's just more of like they probably need to fix that just for rotational sake because I don't think you want to tell good like players that are coming into the game like, hey, just ignore those buttons.
Yeah.
Just take them off your bar. That's not cool. But I do agree with Tark on physical range because honestly, like the only reason we bring physical range to parties now at high level is because
Limit
we get an
break.
extra percent. We get we get the extra limit break and we get a percent buff to damage.
Yep.
If that didn't exist, we wouldn't bring
Yeah.
them into parties.
Probably
We
not.
didn't
No.
take them. So I don't. They gotta kind of strike that balance because if that's the only thing keeping them in the raid, it feels bad. So they're really because like the whole thing is right. They're sacrificing their DPS for movement because they have freedom to kind of go wherever they want. But I don't know if that's gonna last long term because the fact that it kind of still feels bad that you're taking one just for that extra 1% damage buff across the party kind of sucks. I don't know what to do about that, to be honest.
Well,
So.
first off, I think it starts with Bard. Still,
Yeah.
I think it has to start there. Bard needs a monk overhaul times 2, almost at this point. And monk, I think still, as much as I thought the changes were going to be very, very good for Monk, and they were, I still don't think they go far enough on Monk's side either, which leaves Monk feeling a little behind the pack as well. Definitely an improvement.
I feel antiquated.
Yeah, definitely an improvement in the last 2 or 3 patches here, particularly the more recent ones. But it does feel like a very 2.0 class. It feels like all the other classes evolved in each expansion, and Monk just kept doing what it was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where my balance check comes in on some of those classes that were very, very good in 2.0 and are still okay. They're still fun to play. They're still adequate performance if you're not talking about absolute top tier difficulty raid content. You go into an 8-man normal, they're perfectly fine. You're gonna have a blast. Go with your friends and have a good time. That's not what we're talking about. We're not saying don't play these, but when you get to that next level, that Savage, that Unreal, that Ultimate, that's where these Bard and Monk, they're a step behind to the point where literally, you wouldn't bring them if they didn't give you the limit break increase and the 1% buff across the board, because it wouldn't be worth it. The trade-off isn't worth it. I think that's where it has to start, with Bard and still a little bit of Monk. Machinist, I think, could use a little bit of love as well. Not as much as Bard, but I do think Machinist almost feels like if you were going to evolve Bard into something, but still have a Bard and not add a new class, I feel like Machinist would be what a Bard would be now, if it wasn't its own separate class. Forget the turret stuff. Like, obviously, that class stuff that's not what I'm talking about. But, yeah, I don't know. Bard and Monk, definitely.
I think they need the most love for sure, because I think casters overall are in a kind of ever since the last Red Mage buff, I think they're kind of like in a good place.
I agree.
Those three are pretty good.
I agree. The only difference is you start talking about with casters is who's good at what. Like when you start nitpicking, hey, Black Mage, you're going to have to move. Your DPS is going to suffer. Red Mage, this is your time. Jump in and get that extra DPS. And, that's when you start comparing. None of the classes feel awful compared to the other one. They're just, okay, you got to worry about positioning. You got to worry about movement. When those things happen, your DPS might fall a little bit, but you're going to get it up in this phase and this phase. So I agree that I think the caster DPS is in a nice place, Kronos.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, Summoner is a bit weird. They're very strong.
Yeah.
But again, that comes down to the damn pets, I think, more than anything.
Yes and no. So the pets unresponsiveness, that needs to be fixed. Like, that's bad. But Summoner also gets punished, like, really hard for dying. And let's say that in the expansion, what they add is, like, let's say they add an Alexander phase, right? Now I've got 4 phases, right, of summoning, right? I have, like, my regular, like, little mini Eggy. Then I got Bahamut. Then I got Phoenix. And then I got Alexander. What if I die during Bahamut? Now I got to start back over.
Yep.
What if I die right as Phoenix comes back up? So that kind of feels bad. So if they're going to add like that Alexander phase, they really need to think about how they can kind of intertwine them without kind of punishing the player so bad for dying. Because I mean, yeah, you could say like, oh, get good, scrub, don't die. But like, I mean, when you're progging a raid, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. So like, you don't want them to feel like crap every time. They're like, oh, well, I guess we'll pick the Summoner off the floor and he'll start over again. Like, that kind of sucks.
Summoner's the new Dragoon?
Last up, tanks. Tanks. And again, we find ourselves in the same discussion a little bit as we were with healers, in that, yeah, your role is to tank, but you need to do as much damage as you possibly can, too. You are not just a meat shield keeping things busy, just like that white mage isn't responsible for just topping us off. DPS is an expectation here, where Final Fantasy XIV differs from most MMOs out on the market, when you have tanks and healers that are expected to do decent amounts of damage. So I think we got the same thing going on here. Kronos, we'll start with you again this time. Your thoughts on where the tank balance is at the moment.
So I actually think this is the most balanced role across the board. The biggest issue I think they have with this role right now is the fact that I think it's starting to bleed where a lot of tanks feel very similar, with the exception of maybe Paladin. I mean, Gunbreaker's got its own flair too. It's got its little burst windows and stuff. And I think Gunbreaker is, if I had to pick the strongest one, it'd be it. Warrior and Dark Knight feel a bit of samey to me. I don't know if you guys play those a lot, but I mean, Inner Release and Delirium are very similar in like taste of skill. They just look different. I mean, they do kind of the same thing. So I'm just kind of worried that like the tank role is becoming a bit too homogenized. Like they're kind of very samey. But other than that, like the balance is very good. Like they do about the same amount of damage top to bottom. I mean, their Dark Knight kind of feels a little bit out of place, but it's not like bad or even really worse than any of the other tanks. So
I got to
I
say,
think they're really well balanced.
I main a tank in World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
A heroic rating level tank. So not just, some schlub just walking around. And I've tried since 2.0 getting into tanking in Final Fantasy. Dark Knight bored the shit out of me. Even though, and the only reason I was initially doing it, by the way, was to get mentor status when the cap was 70, right? And even with the jump in levels that you get when you start a Dark Knight, right? Because you don't start from 1. 6 levels in, I was like, nope. I'd rather level something else from level 1. And none of my tanks were 1. I think they were like 15 to 25 at the time. But I was like, no. I got to like 56, 57 or whatever it was, and was like, no, I can't do this. I can't. I will slam my head off my desk. And I've had a lot.
When you did that,
I've had a lot of fun with Warrior, with Paladin, and Gunbreaker. I think is amusing too. But here's the thing: I would take it like you said. They feel kind of samey, Chronos. I feel like they all feel identical. Like I would go even further and say that tanking for me in Final Fantasy XIV as a whole is boring. Because I feel like the tank class is really, besides an ability here or there, which is very Paladin-esque or Warrior-esque, they just don't interest me. I can't get into it, and I don't mind doing it. I like doing it in WoW. I just can't in here. They feel boring. They all feel like they're doing the same thing. There's just different colored animations going off, and maybe that's just me. You seem to not take it as far, Chronos, but you feel kind of the same way, maybe just not as strongly as I do on it. Tark, where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I feel like I'm right in between you two. I feel the balance is pretty good.
I feel it's very, very good because they all freaking feel the same. How could it be bad?
So as far as their tanking, any tank can tank, and do the tank things. You can get into nuances of their home gang type ability, where Dark Knight just sucks balls and Paladin is the best and will always be the best because it's just plain immunity. But as far as getting down into the gritty of like the DPS, I agree with you, Mike. Dark Knight is just the most boring thing. I just can't stand playing it. I feel a little bit better playing Warrior or Gunbreaker, and Paladin's just kind of the old standby. So I think they need some love in the aesthetics and differentiating what each can do. But they're pretty balanced. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing for me though. The thing that's, again, I might be in the minority here, and there are people that think tanking is the most extraordinary fun thing to do. That's cool. God bless you. Have fun. This my opinion doesn't need to match yours. We can still both love the game. That's fine. For me, I don't think there's anything they can do in Endwalker besides very big sweeping class identity type changes stuff, and they're not going to do that. They just aren't. One, they don't have the time, and two, they're getting 2 new classes in the game. Those are going to be the priority, and then the balancing of DPS classes and healers that comes with the addition of a new healer and a new DPS. Tanks are going to get new abilities. They might lose a couple abilities here and there. Maybe that could add a little unique flavor to each of the tanks, so I don't feel quite as strongly that all 4 of them are just boring for me. But I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I don't expect it to get much better in Endwalker on the tanking front for me personally, Kronos.
No, I think you're probably right. Honestly, like if I had to like bet money on it, I don't think they're really going to put much time. I think like it's obvious a lot of us agree that like Dark Knight's not really kind of up to snuff. I think it almost kind of needs a rework. Like I played Dark Knight back in Heavensward, and that's when it felt the best.
Yeah.
And then it just felt like they kind of slowly started taking stuff away, and like kind of dumbing down tanks in general. I mean, to the point where we don't have aggro anymore. Really, it's kind of a joke, and every tank basically has one combo and then kind of like a second combo they don't use all the time. Except for Dark Knight, who just has one combo.
Well,
but
this is so Sojier in chat makes a point that I think is actually a little bigger than Sojier is making it, saying that Square Enix made tanking boring because bosses always jump to the middle, so the boss positioning isn't a big deal. I think it's actually a little bigger than just the bosses always jumping to the middle for something going on. I think it's the dungeon and raid and encounters designs themselves as a whole, not just the boss jumping to the middle, but positioning 90% of the time does not matter. Does not matter. Tank swaps in this game are literally, if they're even relevant, which they usually are in the the savages and the ultimates and stuff, but prior to that, most of the time they aren't. But they're really only to avoid a debuff, let a debuff cool off.
Pretty much.
I mean that's it. Where again, playing WoW in the most recent raid in Castle Nathria, there are many different reasons in 10 boss fights why we might be tank swapping. Some of them are debuff related. Some of them are take a couple of stacks and then give the boss to Tarkoth. But some of them are for totally other reasons as well. It's, I think, just the encounter design, not just jumping to the middle. The encounter design doesn't facilitate needing a tank in the way that most MMOs utilize a tank class, Kronos.
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, I agree. It's not really designed super well for having 2 tanks a lot of the time. A lot of times, like you'll have fights where even in Savage, where you just if you can get a void tank swap and you just don't do it, and the other tank just smacks the boss. That does happen. I do agree with what he's saying in chat though. I do think this tier kind of babied people a little bit because in the last tier, you'd had like Ramu, he'd move like all over the place, and that was cool if your tank couldn't keep him in the middle. You had Ifra Garuda, which actually sometimes required 2 tanks doing something at the same time, even though like that kind of fight had some poor design choices. You had even in E7 when you had the ad phase, like your tanks had to like pull them apart, make sure. And then in this tier specifically, it's like every time Cloud of Darkness does something, she jumps back to the middle. Every time the dog does something, he jumps back to the middle. Every time Thancred, Ranjit, whatever, he's Fatebreaker, he jumps back to the middle. Even like the door boss jumps back to the middle. The only exception I think is Oracle. You can kind of pull her in different ways, but even that doesn't, like you said, it doesn't even really matter that much. You can kind of almost pull her where you want. Yeah, they need to like kind of think about those design choices because like now that aggro is not even a thing, there needs to be like more interesting things that tanks are doing during the fight because otherwise they're just hitting 1, 2, 3 a lot of times.
Yep.
Because their rotations meant to be that way. So.
Last question on this one. Do you think it's best balanced for 4-person, 8-person, or 24-person content? Overall, healers, tanks, DPS, as far as the entire game, do you think it's balanced best for 4, 8, or 24, Tark?
I think they revolve around the 8-man and try to make sure everything's balanced for normal Savage rating and to a lesser degree ultimates, when it's in the game and they don't cut it. And then 4-mans are pretty much easy peasy. You don't really have enrage checks. You can take as long as you want. 24-man, there's just so many people that you can have one whole group that's dead and you still get it done. So,
well, I think even the 24-man is tuned for 8-person because typically all those fights are one big boss that is multiplied by 3, or literally 3 different parties doing their own thing in some formation around the room with mini bosses. So yeah, I would agree. And 4-man, unfortunately, I still continue. I love dungeons, but it's the biggest opportunity for improvement in Final Fantasy XIV. The 4-man content is a joke as far as difficulty or challenge. So I would assume, Kronos, that you're also in the 8-person department here.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously what they balance around. White Mage has been busted in dungeons for as long as I can remember, and no one cares.
No
they don't even, like, he does holy.
Yep.
Holy like 50 times.
And no one
It's a tank
cares.
cooldown.
It is. It's a tank cooldown.
I like it's been busted and no one cares. All right, gang, let us know what you think in the comments below about balancing of classes in Final Fantasy XIV. Of course, this is a topic we could probably spend an entire another hour on, getting into the minutia of each individual classes and the classes and their abilities. We'll save that for another time. There's plenty of dead time between now and Endwalker. So we could do a show about every class if you want to. At some point, I'm sure we'll have a few weeks to do that. So let's head over and do all the other Square Enix news. There was a little thing happened today. I don't know if you guys knew about this. Little company Square Enix was doing like a YouTube's presentation or one of those streaming things.
That's a thing?
Yeah, apparently it is a thing. So I figure we'll go through... sorry. Played the audio. Did not mean to play the audio. We'll go through what each of the announcements were here. We may not spend a ton of time on some of them. Yeah, looking at you, mobile. But let's start with Outriders, game that we're all very much looking forward to. Comes out in about 2 weeks now, April 1st. Outriders got some love, kicked off the presentation, got a new trailer, got the This Is Outrageous trailer, or This Is Outriders trailer, the Appreciate Power trailer as well. And we also have an interview with Gaming Bolt, where the team at People Can Fly talked a little more about monetization for the game than they have, because we know following that this game that it is not a live service. Think Borderlands all in the box, not Anthem or Destiny 2. But it came to light this week in conversations with people that some of my friends that cover gaming for a living, Jason Winter, Zach Sharps over on MMOBomb.com, they follow all things gaming related. They were under the impression still that this was a live service in the vein of Anthem or Destiny 2. And People Can Fly have been saying it's not for ages now. But I feel like they really didn't get the word out there well enough if people like Jason and Zach didn't know that it wasn't a live service. So in this interview, they talk about that a little bit. But more importantly, they talk about their approach to future monetization, microtransactions, things like that. And from the team, we get this quote. "We decided to go the old school approach, where we are just finishing the game and giving it to players, not thinking about microtransactions, game passes, and things like that. At some point, it was easier for us to think about the game this way, just delivering the whole product. We believe players will like that proposal, that they're just buying something. Like it always used to be."
Yeah. The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days. Of course, it doesn't close for us the option in the future to just add a battle pass or some similar content, but not like microtransactions. It would be more like the bigger components that can help those players who want to get deeper into our world play in that world. But until then, we will have what we created, and that is enough. Do we want to build on our world and mechanics? Sure, but not in the form of microtransactions. So at some point, expect a battle pass, something like that.
Maybe.
But no microtransactions, even to go along with the it's not a live service game, Tark. I mean, I really hope the game just doesn't end up sucking or becoming boring after 6 hours, because People Can Fly has literally done everything right in my book as far as building, marketing, and looking at the future of a game. So I hope the game is good.
That's going to be it. Is the game good? If it's good, it's going to do awesome. They're saying all the right things. people are sick and tired of microtransaction being nickel and dime for a cosmetic suit and whatnot, and where Avengers did it wrong. I'm hoping this game knocks it out of the park.
Millions of demo players. Millions
Yes.
of demo players. So it got a little bit of love. No real new information in the Square Enix presentation, but the trailers are always good. Next up, they kind of went from that into some Tomb Raider, the definitive Survivor trilogy coming out. No real news on the Tomb Raider front besides that. They teased the statue that they're still finishing coloring on. They teased the animated partnership with Netflix. And yeah, I mean, that was about it. Still kind of disappointed, Kronos, that we're not getting more yet for Lara, being that this is the 25th anniversary year. I'm still waiting for that announcement that I as we go on, more and more, I think we're not going to get.
Yeah, no, they would have already announced it by now, I feel. I have the same feeling as you. Like, I just feel like if there was really something that big, it would already be coming out. So I don't know if we're going to get much more than this.
I don't have a link or anything, but I know they have specifically said that they're going to release stuff over the course of the whole year.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple.
We'll probably get
we talked about that a couple of shows ago.
Yeah, we'll get some top-down releases. I think towards the end of the year, we'll get an announcement about a new game.
We'll see.
Maybe.
Then we had the mobile extravaganza. I didn't see anything I liked here. I don't care. Just Cause Mobile, if you're into it. Hitman, Sniper, Assassins. And there were some like odds and ends. Like they have a Space Invaders project coming up where they're partnered there from Square Enix Montreal.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. We're getting a new Bubble Bobble. Well, I mean, technically you can play it on the Switch now, but it's coming to Steam. As soon as I heard the music, I like grinned. I spent so many hours on the original NES Bubble Bobble. Darius Cosmic Revelation, another Darius shooter game. So some of the like more classic stuff, right? And I thought that was nice. And I thought they did. I don't think it's like they're clutching at straws, Ninja. I think they just kind of viewed these as little side project, mobile or portable gaming quickies. You know what? We own this license. We haven't made anything with it for years. Let's make a new Bubble Bobble real quick. I thought it looked cool too. Like it was very reminiscent, Kronos, of the original while looking modern, I thought.
Yeah, it looks cool. It might be something. I didn't play the Switch one, so I might grab it on Steam. I like having things on PC now, so. And I played the Super Nintendo version a lot.
Oh hell yeah! So. Played the hell out of that game.
Sorry, stuck in my head. Oh yeah, and then we got the big announcement, gentlemen. The biggie. You want to talk about clutching at straws, Ninja? Here it is. Marvel's Avengers, who had a chance to make a big splash and get you some info, plugged their Hawkeye update that came out today. Their next-gen launch, which came out today. And a roadmap that said, we're going to do stuff this year. Still. Reports are saying Spider-Man, don't expect Spider-Man if you're a PlayStation player until summer at the earliest, mid to late summer. And then they teased, I guess this was like their big thing, right? They teased Black Panther coming sometime this year.
As an expansion.
So everything Avengers had to offer in this presentation we already knew. Except you could say we didn't know Black Panther. We just assumed Black Panther from leaked/data mined information. So we all knew Black Panther. And by the way, they are not considering free to play for this game at all. At all. 100%.
That might be true for now.
Yeah, good luck.
Yep. I can't remember where this was. I know Jason linked it, and I wanted to credit who wrote it, but I don't remember who wrote it. But there was an interview where they said, nope, our model is our model. And I thought, that's all well and good for Crystal Dynamics to say that, but they're not the ones that get to make that call.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been there before. They're not the ones that get to make that call. That's going to be a Square Enix call, not a Crystal Dynamics call. So honestly, I feel bad for it, right? Like, this was a chance for, if they were working on they keep talking about all this content and this mission that takes a lot of time after you do the main storyline. Not many people are doing. And if they would learn about the vault and this and this and this, and we're adding gear and we're adding a level cap and we're doing this. But every time I see like the new content they're adding, Tark, it's just variations of the same damn thing with the same damn enemies. Like, oh, the cloning lab, great. Sure, let me fight the crocodile 94 more times. It just, I don't know. I feel bad beating up on it because there are people doing a lot of work on this game, and I recognize there are human beings behind this. And I have compassion for human beings. But God, you can't keep dropping roadmaps that say 2021 or that you're adding a new Tachyon mission. Is it a small variation of the 4 I already have? Well, then what the hell do I care?
Yeah. I feel like they're giving us a roadmap, but they don't have a roadmap themselves of how they want this game to actually be. I don't see a reason to even play it. And with it being a live service, don't you need a plan? Doesn't a live service need a plan? Isn't that how that works?
I just think,
hey man, they made three Star Wars movies without a plan. So,
that's true. And look what happened.
So this should give you a little bit of an idea. Today is the Hawkeye patch release. One of the more anticipated items that we knew about in Avengers from release. The Steam version of the game just barely peaked over 2,000 players within the last 24 hours. It's the release day of the new character patch. Steam barely peaked over 2,000 players so far. It's on the downswing right now. It's at like 1,800.
It's still no crossplay.
Still no crossplay. Oh, yeah, Prism. Thank you. And it's even grindier than before.
Yes, that's right.
Really?
Yes, it is.
So we didn't have a show last week because of Tark had to help out a coworker, and then Adam and I were like, "There's like no news. If we wanted to talk about classes, we wanted Tark to be here. We didn't want to 2-man that type of show, so we didn't do a show last week. So we talked a little bit about it on Gaming Gumbo. Yeah, they increased. So it used to be like the amount of experience you needed to get from 1 to 2 was the same as what you needed to get from 49 to 50, which why they designed it that way, I have no idea. That's dumb. But that's what they did. And so they changed it now so that the experience after level 25 and up starts taking longer and longer to get from 25 to 50 once you hit that. Their primary rationale for this, Chronos, was new players are... what fucking new players? New players are feeling overwhelmed by the number of like skill points they're getting, and we want the decisions to be more impactful and them have time to mess with it because they were going out on one mission, coming back having gained like 2 or 3 levels and having multiple skill points to put in it. To which I made the point on Gaming Gumbo, you all, if you've played the campaign, you are done with the primary campaign at like level 15, 16, 17-ish, right in that window. So this grind has nothing to do with people that are new players going through the main campaign because the grind hasn't been changed for the first 25 levels. It's been changed for the last 25. So wait a minute.
Sounds like you're just artificially increasing playtime.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep. That's it. That's all it is.
Ding. I don't know. I mean, Godspeed to them. I'm not even a huge Avengers fan, and I wanted this game to do well. And I did enjoy it when I got through the campaign, but by the time I got to the end and I was done with the campaign, I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to punch more of the same robots. Balan Wonderworld, you two don't care about, so we can skip that. Although I thought the trailer was
I liked it.
phenomenal.
I like the demo.
I thought it was cool that they showed more of the dance scenes, like the ones that happen after bosses, Tark. We like that in the demo.
That was cute.
When your character and the farmer are dancing. Life is Strange getting a new title, True Colors, and a remaster of the first two. I've got a full disclosure moment for you guys. I have never played a Life is Strange title.
Me neither. So right there with you.
Third on that, but I'm looking forward to the Ultimate Edition. I'll get all of them together and I'll give it a try.
I saw that too. I was like, you know what? I own the first one. I think it's either for PS3 or PS4. I don't remember which. But I think it was Torchwick that wanted it, so we bought it. And I've never played it. I don't have anything against them. I just never played them. I'm gonna get the remaster. I was like, okay, well, if you're gonna remaster the first two and do this third one, I'm in. And then there was the big reveal, gents.
Yeah, buddy.
We got another look at Project Athia. Remember, this is supposed to release in January of 2022. So we're not all that removed from this. We got the main character, but not a lot more. We know who's playing the main character, but that's it as well. But we also did get a name. There's Ella playing the lead character. We also did get a name. Surprise, surprise. Project Athia will now bear the official name Forspoken.
Forspoken.
I'm going to need you to roll the tapes back because I'm pretty sure at some point during an episode of one of these casts, I said that that's possible that there was the name of this.
Yeah.
Because we were talking, I think it was before we were trying to talk about if Forspoken was the expansion to 14. And I was like, it just doesn't sound like it. I feel like it might be the name of this. But then as we got closer, I was kind of almost convincing myself that Forspoken was the 14 because they always leak it and they didn't somehow.
Yep. Somehow they hung on to it. I think I was of the Forspoken was definitely going to be the 14 expansion. But if for some reason it wasn't, Kronos, you were probably right, and it was going to be Athia. Yeah. Now we know that the world in the game is called Athia. The game is called Forspoken. We don't have a lot more, but we do see, is that a motherfucking dragon? Which I think is probably one of the greatest tease lines a video game character has ever spoken to immediately have me interested in the world and what's going on, Tark. I actually loved this video, even though there was almost no meat to the content.
Oh, there's no meat. It was just, is that motherfucking? Yes, that was amazing. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And I love the little bit of gameplay, the little parkour speeding along. That was nice.
A couple like magic spellish things going on here. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, but there's not much there. So hopefully maybe this summer we'll get a big chunk of info.
Well, again, it's supposed to be released in January. So we got to start getting information for it soon, Kronos. Hell, most Square Enix titles, we would have a price already.
True.
All in all, I thought it was a good presents, though. I'm glad they did it. I don't feel the way that I did after the State of Play. We covered that on Gaming Gumbo and some pieces of it here. This, I thought, you know what? There was enough there, and the stuff that wasn't really big, they kept very short. They kept the mobile stuff short. They kept the Taito sponsorship or partnership stuff short, and they got bang, 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 bang. Avengers took up way too much time, in my estimation, for the nothing they really offered besides here's a look at a tease at Black Panther, and here's what you're getting in today's patch. And a picture of a roadmap that doesn't have dates on it because they got burnt by that once before.
I feel really desperate.
Then there's the other side of the Square Enix business that's still doing the mobile stuff. We did get more news about the Final Fantasy VII First Soldier Battle Royale and Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis mobile games. Let's start with the Battle Royale. Again, this coming from Game Informer. It is, a Battle Royale. And I get what the thought process might be here, right? Nomura was interviewed by Famitsu, translated, so forgive, wonky wording here and there. The first soldier isn't limited to Final Fantasy VII, but the long-lasting IP fan base has been fixed, and on the contrary, to be able to appeal to other fan bases has become an issue for us. I have a strong feeling that I can't get rid of the big sign, Final Fantasy VII, and I'm developing Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier with the spirit of participating in the hottest genre as a full challenger. All right, so a few things. Battle Royale was the hottest genre about 2.5 years ago. We're a little late to the hottest genre party here. It's still very big. I will not dispute that, but it's not the hottest at the moment, I don't think. Second off, there is nothing that, even in watching the video that they showed on Game Informer, Kronos, there is nothing that feels less Final Fantasy to me than lining up a headshot.
You didn't like when Sephiroth lined up his headshot on Aerith, too? You didn't appreciate that?
Wasn't a headshot. Totally missed.
Yeah, he missed, dude. Yeah, come on, man. Lag.
They want you to know that this is not just a mobile grab. They want this to be enjoyable, visually stunning mobile experience that goes beyond what we know about this beloved franchise.
Then why is it on mobile?
It's a mobile grab.
Good call. Ever Crisis, the single-player experience meant to cover, the entire Final Fantasy timeline, will have its own episodes and additional side stories, and they said that the main storyline will be summarized in about 10 chapters. You'll escape from Midgar will happen at about chapter 3. There will also be original episodes after that. Those episodes will all be free, so not following the model of the Final Fantasy XV mobile game like we speculated. The episodes themselves will be free because they put in something else for you, Kronos, that they know you love. Gacha mechanics.
Gotcha.
Not gotcha. Not like gotya. Gacha. Not gotya. But yeah.
Gotcha.
Random microtransactions in-game for your single-player mobile RPG in the vein of weapons and equipment.
I knew they were going to do it. At least it's not characters. I guess.
So it's more like Opera Omnia.
Yeah, it just puts a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know. It's like they can't just make a thing. They have to make a thing and then put a bunch of crap in it. I don't get it, but whatever. It's not for me, I guess. Fine.
I don't know who it's for. I've come across so many people online that have just shared the opinions we expressed, which was, feel like a beloved franchise is now just being wrung out like a sponge right now. A beloved game. Speaking of Final Fantasy VII, no further DLC is planned. The focus now has shifted fully to Part 2. So that's cool.
PS5 exclusive still, though. So that's, pretty sweet.
Yeah. And no announcement yet on PC yet. So
Nope.
I think they have to wait. When does it expire? I feel like it's in a couple weeks.
April 10th.
Right?
April 10th.
April 10th.
Yeah. So it maybe
I'll
now
know.
hope. No hope. Maybe if they announce, that's my birthday, so that would be sick. But maybe I'm not gonna hold my breath though. At this point.
Last piece, and this really isn't Square Enix, but I felt like, Final Fantasy XIV, let's mention it for the thousands upon thousands of viewers we get, right? Playism and developer No Cross revealed Tatsumaki Behind the Twilight, coming out for PC via Steam in spring of 2021. It's a 3D platformer in a Far East art. The reason I bring it up is because they do background artist work for Final Fantasy XIV. So we'll plug their game to the hundreds and millions of people that watch the Relic Grind. Gentlemen, let's slide over to Love It or Leave It and call it a day.
All right.
We talked about this a little in the pre-show about gearing and then we were talking about glamoring and things like that. So I thought I'd ask about the actual gearing process. We went through the classes today, but the gearing process in Final Fantasy XIV has basically been the same process since 2.0, right? Grab your tomestones, get some gear, take that gear into raids, get the raid gear, go do your relic grind. Rinse and repeat ad nauseum. How you guys feel this many years now after 2.0? When you look at the way you gear in Final Fantasy XIV right now versus how maybe other MMOs do it, because admittedly, this process is a very old school MMO gearing process. Gather currency, get tier sets, right? WoW hasn't done tier sets like that in years and years and years. Other games have evolved in different directions. So, do you love this gearing system or do you want to leave it? Kronos, we'll start with you.
This is tough for me, honestly, because there are things I like about it. So I from what I don't play a lot of other MMOs. That's one thing I'll throw out there now. From what I understand, a lot of the other MMOs, like your roll on like gear, like your gear can get different stats, and I kind of hate that. I like that Final Fantasy; it's very consistent. You have two or three things typically to choose from your best in slot list, and you kind of put it together, and you have a consistent best in slot. But I'm gonna say leave it only because it's just been beaten to death a little bit. I'd like to see them change the game up a little bit to the point where we have maybe some kind of more decision making, but it just can't be bad. Like I don't want it to be the point where like you're giving the player a chance to make a bad decision. I'd like to be able to just make more decisions that maybe alter a little bit of what I'm doing when it comes to gear. And with the current system, I don't think you can do that. So I'm going to go with leave it for that reason.
I think Square Enix's argument against you might be, well, that's what materia is for. If you want that little bit of player agency in a certain stat, that's what. Now, again, the counter argument would be there is clearly a best stat for what my class needs for the difficulty of the raids you have made. So I don't have that agency, but that's what Square Enix would say. Well, you can change up the materia if you want a little customization. What about you, Tark? Love it or leave it?
So we've been dealing with this same system for 8 years now? So there's a sense of comfort. When I knew teardrops, I know what I need to do. Tombs, do the normal modes, get my grade pieces. Like Chrono said, find your best in slot and go after it.
Right.
But I'm going to leave it with Chronos. There's just not enough variations to be your own character. It's very, you got one or two options, and one is clearly going to be better than the other. For healers, it's this has piety. No, I'm not taking it. So, and there's really only one reason to get like best in slot in a particular raid tier, and that's either you're going to go into the next expansion, so you want to jump ahead, or you're preparing for an ultimate. So it's I'm going to leave it.
I'm going to leave it too. I think it's a little outdated. I hate the idea of like every time we get a patch, we have to recycle just so that they can keep these currencies out of the game and replace them for new ones. I'm not a fan of it. I do like a guaranteed piece, like having a tier set available so that if my piece didn't drop from a dungeon or whatever, I am eventually going to get it. I know I'm going to get it. But I think there should be, I would be happy if there were just alternate ways, right? Like the expert had a chance to drop each of the tier pieces in addition to you buying them with tombstones. That way, I don't feel like, oh shit, well, I just got to run 9 and then I can buy this, or run 4 and then I can buy this, or whatever. I might get it on 1. Cool. All right. If that could be modified a little bit. So I'm going to leave it as well. Chat, make sure you hang tight after the show. Channel will go dead for about 30 seconds or so, as always. And then we're going to be coming online with Ms. Faye Death. What's up?
What up?
Well, you got your mustache, so I'm assuming it's an Outer Worlds night.
It is. It is. We may take a break next week just to change it up a little bit, but
Well, you took a break with
I
some
was feeling
Overwatch,
nostalgia.
so yeah, I mean, you could
we did. We did. We got a little break. So
get yourself another
back
little
in.
one.
Exactly.
Doing the pew pews in
freaking
Outer Worlds. She'll be coming up next. And of course, we'll be back next Thursday. Until then, Kronos, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, same as always. Twitter below. Probably gonna be talking complaining about the Snyder Cut. I watched that before this, so if you want to see that, I'll probably be on Twitter right after this.
Tarkoth.
Twitch and Twitter at Darkoth Gaming, and Saturday, Sunday nights here on Ready Check Radio.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there on Twitter, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio so we can tweet at you all the shows and all the streamers who are lovely enough to volunteer their time streaming on this channel. It's much appreciated by me and everybody behind the scenes, and we hope you'll appreciate it too. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers.